Good evening, everyone. So we are the Team 9 meteorologist, Nathan Judd, joining you for this edition of Nate at 8. And of course, the big story, more snow on the way for tomorrow morning. The good news is not near as much as what we had for Tuesday ahead for Thursday. That's the good news. The bad news is the timing is similar. So it's occurring in a bad time. The fact that that snow will be falling likely into the morning commute. But the good news, again, much less of that snow. And of course, that's what we're going to be focusing a lot on for this edition of Nate at 8. And also want to touch on as well, once we get past Thursday, Friday morning. Don't want to overlook that. That is some cold temperatures, especially for this time of the year. And we could be breaking records across the tri-state area. A lot of records can fall Friday morning, and it's a combination of several factors that allow temperatures to really drop off. So we'll get to that as well. Starting off with those temperatures for tonight. Well, nothing record breaking about tonight, but it's still cold. Temperatures into the 20s. And right where we're looking at now is pretty similar to where high temperatures likely end up tomorrow and then start to actually fall. Tomorrow afternoon can be even cooler with respect to what we're currently dealing with. Those temperatures are going to be dropping in the wake of a cold front passage that delivers more snow for tomorrow morning. And we haven't touched too much more on that snowfall that we had for Tuesday, but it was significant in one way. For us to get through over 3 inches of snow before December 3rd is rare for us here in the Ohio Valley. How rare? How about only 3 other times in 30 years rare? Yes, the 4th time in 30 years that we've seen this occur. December 1st, 2020, November 14th, 2013, and November 12th of 1995. The years that we joined to get this highest snowfall amounts this early into the season. So if you're wondering what's going on, we don't typically get this kind of snow this early. You are correct. It's been 5 years the last time we had that, but if you expand it over 30 years, again, only the 4th time it has occurred. Now, in a more interesting statistic, how about this? More interesting, 2020, 2013, and 1995, the 3 other years we joined. How about those 3 years or seasons, right? 2020, 21, 2013, 2014, 1995, 1996, December through February. Look at the snowfall amounts that the following December through February period had following that early season high snow event. The 4th highest snowfall totals on record at 2020 and 2021. We had over 45 inches over those 3. So 45.6, 49, and 54.4. Yeah, those were big snowmaker seasons there following these early high snowfall events. And that's a strong correlation, not necessarily causation, but strong correlation and interesting statistic. We'll see if 2025, 2026 follows to be a big snowmaker. But I thought that was interesting to share that these early, high snow events for us here in the Ohio Valley have equated over the past 30 years to some high snow seasons in general. So I just thought that was an interesting statistic. But for us, not dealing with a lot of snow, but we are getting another round of it going into tomorrow morning. Things are quiet now. Again, the timing is similar with respect to Tuesday. So it's late tonight before we see the snow break out. We're noticing that snow right now encompassing a good portion of the Great Lakes, extending back into a portion of the Midwest. Notice again, not as much, right? It just in general, looking at radar and looking towards our northwest to what's coming our way, you can already tell, right? Not nearly as much snow as what we were tracking coming our way going into Tuesday morning. So when will this arrive? Well, likely going to be well after midnight, and the timing could be even a bit later with respect to what we did see for Monday night into Tuesday morning. Because I know we started to see that snow break out even closer to 2 o'clock in the morning, but this could be closer to about 4 or 5 a.m. We could start to see that snow break out. Again, this is generally lighter snow. We're not getting as heavy snow as what we saw for Tuesday morning, for Thursday morning, but the timing is similar. The fact that this will be occurring into the morning commute and then continuing through the morning commute, but quickly tapering off following that. So as we extend closer towards 10 o'clock in the morning, a lot of this is done. And by midday, it's likely all done. So the afternoon, we are drying up and at the same point seeing a decrease in cloud cover. And like I mentioned, a decrease in our temperatures. Notice how quickly they fall off. Yeah, how about that? 5 o'clock by tomorrow evening, as the sun is setting, our temperatures are likely dropping into the teens, and we are closer to the single digits than by Friday morning. That is very cold for this time of the year. So again, some headlines for our snow this time around. The timing think of it being similar to Tuesday. There's not too much of a difference. But the biggest difference, much less snow. So just snow, much less snow, likely only a coating to an inch. That is it. A lot less. Don't take it lightly though. Sometimes when we get that just coating to an inch, these roads could be still quite slick. We can still see a lot of accidents. Don't take the lighter amounts lightly and think that tomorrow morning, is no issue at all. Is obviously not as bad as what we had for Tuesday, but those slippery roads are still possible for Thursday morning. I've seen it many times over the more recent years here in the Ohio Valley that even when we get these light snow events, it's still enough that we end up with accidents across the area and still some slippery road conditions. So again, not as bad. I don't say that to scare you. I just say that, still want to use some caution tomorrow morning. Ultimately not as bad. I don't think we're hazardous like what we were for Tuesday morning, more in the slippery, right? So not as hazardous road conditions as what we had for Tuesday, but just in general, still slippery road conditions is a good way to put it. We could see some slick spots develop as the snow starts to break out closer to 4 o'clock in the morning, and our worst road conditions then will likely follow with just some generally slippery road conditions going into the morning commute. And closer to 6 a.m., continuing a little bit past that, closer to 10 a.m. or so. There's not no real specific cutoff to when those slippery road conditions will improve. But in general, the snow tapers off late morning, and then an improvement occurs into the afternoon. I still watch, we can still have some slippery spots as temperatures do drop off quite drastically into Thursday evening as the salt becomes less effective that crews are placing down. It's just something to note. We could still have some slick spots linger into even into Friday morning. It's just that, we'll likely see that improvement going into Thursday afternoon. And then following this, after we deal with, again, some slippery road conditions for the morning, improvement in the afternoon, of course, our attention then turns to just how cold it's going to be. Our record low stands at 12 degrees. That was set in 1976. And we've got a great chance not only to reach that, but even surpass that. A lot of us are nearing the single digits. I think there can be a handful of locations that are actually into the single digits. It's going to be very cold. We are surpassing likely that record low of 12 degrees. We can shatter records in general across the tri-state area. A lot of records can fall. And ironically, what do we see occur during our very cold night? How about the cold moon? Yeah, that's the name of the full moon, December, the full cold moon. And how ironic. What great timing. The peak illumination will occur at 6:14 p.m. tomorrow. You would have good viewing tonight, but unfortunately too much cloud cover, right? But we'll get good viewing for tomorrow night. Peak illumination again occurring into Thursday evening. Moonrise 4:23 p.m. tomorrow, and then it sets at 8:35 a.m. Friday morning. So good view of that full cold moon. This is the last of 3 consecutive super moons of the year, wrapping up here into December. The super moon just means that the full moon is occurring with the moon with the same point or near the same point the moon is actually closest to Earth in its orbit. That's what we call the moon's perigee. So think of the moon orbiting around Earth, right? And it's not a perfect circle; it's elliptical. So there's points in that orbit where the moon is a little closer to Earth. That's known as the moon's perigee. So it just happens to align that these full moons occurred near that moon's perigee. And what does it do? Well, not too much to the naked eye, but technically it's a little bit bigger and a little bit brighter than a typical full moon. Just something else to note that, yes, this is a super moon, and the last of 3 consecutive super moons of the year. Full cold moon, December's full moon coming up tomorrow. Get a good viewing of it with little cloud cover in place. And that's just, we give these good ingredients with little cloud cover in place. The snow cover as well plays a factor. Little cloud cover, the light to calm winds, very dry air, dew points, single digits. That all just adds up to allow for those cold temperatures by Friday morning. Now, following that, this weekend looks quiet. I think we could maybe see some flurries, snow showers, maybe some mixed in at times, but nothing that looks significant coming our way as it stands now. Just a slight chance. It's overall just a lot more cloud cover, which will help those overnight lows. Cloud cover acts much like a blanket and helps trap that heat and keeps those overnight lows afloat, if you will. And we'll see those lows back in the 20s with more cloud cover. And we start to lose a little bit of it. Well, notice we could fall back in the teens then early next week. And following tomorrow morning, our next round of more widespread precipitation looks to be going into the middle of next week. That's when we could deal with some more snow showers, and temperatures look to trend a little warmer. Maybe we could have a bit of a mix there to contend with. It's way too early, being a week away, to really dive into specifics, but we are going to keep an eye on that system. Again, that's going into the early mid part of next week is when we'll keep an eye out for that following round of more widespread precipitation after these snow showers taper off for tomorrow morning. Let's catch up to the comments now. Austin, good evening. Another bitter, cold, chilly day, but with the snow, it's still on the ground. It feels like a winter wonderland. Yes, indeed. I heard that there could be more snow coming by Monday, and likely going a little past that into the middle part of next week is when we'll spot more of that precipitation there coming our way. Austin, Joe, good evening to you as well. Thank you for tuning in. All of you, thank you all for tuning in as always. I appreciate it. School delays tomorrow, Renee says, and quite possibly more, and maybe even more just because of how cold it is Friday morning as well. I think kids are loving this this week, that's for sure. Any snow accumulation next week, unfortunately, is too early to tell. It's certainly possible, but it's just too early to dive into any specifics. But yes, it is possible for more snow accumulations next week, Renee. Shelly says, just slow down and have patience with everyone. Be safe. A good way to put it there. Nothing as hazardous as bad as what we saw Tuesday morning, but still another good morning to allow yourself plenty of time to get to your destination. Take it slower, use some caution, and just good rules to follow. That's for sure there, Shelly. Kaylin says, will schools delay? Possibly. Yeah, I could see that. Definitely could. Do we see as many cancellations as what we saw for Tuesday morning? Probably not. Again, I don't think it's as bad, but it's always hard to tell. The timing is the key here with respect to that. And it's bad, right? It doesn't favor schools having school because it's just bad timing. Even with the 2-hour delay, the snow's starting to wind down a little bit later, but some snow could still be occurring even with a 2-hour delay. So it's just that timing, again, bad timing, similar to Tuesday again for Thursday. If we were to adjust this just a little bit earlier, a little bit later, it could be a different story. But with the bad timing, yes, I could see more delays, possibly cancellations, even though it's not much snow. Just with the timing of it could still impact school schools for tomorrow and their decision to have school. And I think overall, just because we're not getting as much snow and the snow's lighter, I don't think the conditions are going to be as bad. Crews can keep up with that snow more so for tomorrow with respect to the heavy snow, which is really impossible to keep up with like we had for Tuesday morning, for Thursday morning. That, I think that, in general, they can be less, but they definitely think there still could be more. It's hard to really predict school cancellations, delays. Thank you for doing the. Oh, you're so very welcome, Joe. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Of course, you can catch me coming up News 9 at 10 on Fox 9, News 9 tonight at 11. As always, for the latest and for the next edition of Nate at 8, where we'll be talking about just how cold it is, even at this point for Thursday. Even Thursday evening at this point, it's in the teens likely, and we're all going to be retreating inside and and not wanting to exit the house on Friday morning. That's for sure. Riley says, where is this for? So we cover Eastern Ohio, the Northern Panhandle. That's where we cover the Northern Panhandle, West Virginia. That's our coverage area. So when we talk about the amount of snow impacts and everything, that's the area we're covering. So think, east of Columbus, Ohio, east of even Zanesville, Ohio, if you know where that is, going towards, the Northern Panhandle, West Virginia, west of Pittsburgh. That's where we reside, and that's where we're covering here. And much like Tuesday morning, I'm not breaking it down by a specific area because it can be similar, just like what we had for Tuesday morning, right? A lot of us saw some pretty similar amounts, impacts, and Thursday morning can be the same in that regard. So we're not, there's no area favoring more snow than the other. It's pretty similar. I know, it varied some, certainly varied to some degree, what we saw for Tuesday morning, but nothing extravagant, right? There weren't areas that saw no snow and other areas that saw 5 inches. That wasn't the case. A lot of us picking up 3 to 4, and a lot of us just a coating to an inch. A lot of us right in that range. Not much snow, but just that a little bit. I still give that little fresh coating on these roads as possible for tomorrow morning, and that's enough to still cause some slippery road conditions. Riley says, I'm in Oklahoma. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, Riley, and joining us from Oklahoma. We have some winter weather coming tonight and morning in Oklahoma. Well, thanks so much, Riley, for tuning in with us. I appreciate that. And Kaylee says, hopefully no school's delay. Hoping for that school delay. I definitely think it's possible. And again, I think some cancellations possible. Again, not really not so much for the amount. Again, just the timing, right? Just the bad timing again of the snow falling and occurring as we go into tomorrow morning. And then from there, should be a pretty quiet weekend overall. We'll see. We may have to sprinkle in some snow showers in the mix as we go through the weekend. As we gain a little more confidence on when we could see some snow showers in the mix, but it doesn't look like anything significant as we go through the weekend. Certainly no winter storm. That's going to be a significant impact coming our way as we go through the weekend, but maybe we'll sprinkle in some snow shower chances here over the next couple of days by the time the weekend arrives. But again, just no winter storm, nothing of major impact or significance coming our way once we extend it early next week. And then we'll see the latest in the middle of next week. Right now it stands to be a little bit warmer, and we can get some rain mixing in, some chilly rain, possibly mixing in with that snow into the middle of next week. And Richie says, what about Dillonvale? And again, very similar across the area. So just like what we had for Tuesday morning, I think Thursday morning, very similar. A lot of us are generally dealing with the same coating to an inch. And a lot of us dealt generally with the same, not exactly, but we didn't stray too far. A lot of us saw, about 3 to 4 inches of snow on Tuesday morning. So it could be pretty similar across the area again for tomorrow morning. Not much, a little bit of snow, bad timing, still enough to give that coating on these area roads tomorrow morning. John says, bummer. Hoping for more snow, John, and not too much coming our way, or maybe not a fan of the snow, but just a little bit for tomorrow morning. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. Hope you had a wonderful day. I hope you stayed safe Tuesday morning. Hopefully, again, stay safe tomorrow morning. Take it slow. Use extra time, caution, get to your destination tomorrow morning. And from there, well, it's time to bundle up for Friday morning. It is cold. Thanks again so much for tuning in. I'll catch you coming up News 9 at 10 on Fox 9 News 9 to 9:11. Of course, for that next edition of Nate at 8 tomorrow evening. Until then, have a great night.